The desperate call. The grand chamber of the Cathari Collective fell silent as Supreme Coordinator Velar approached the central podium. His translucent skin had dulled to an ashen gray, and the bioluminescent patterns that normally pulsed across his body were barely visible, a clear sign of extreme distress to the 11 other species representatives gathered before him. "The cerulean system has fallen," Velar announced, his voice wavering through the neural amplifiers. 18 billion souls, gone in less than one planetary rotation. The holographic display behind him activated, showing the real-time destruction of what had once been the Cathari's most populated outer colony. The Void Harvester's ships, massive obsidian structures resembling crystalline spiders, methodically stripped the system's planets down to their cores, consuming all matter and energy in their path. "That makes 23 systems lost in 90 cycles," said Naxvori, the science minister. Her segmented exoskeleton clicked nervously as she manipulated the display to show a galactic map. Nearly 1/4 of it was now marked in pulsing red. At current progression rates, they will reach our homeworlds within 6 standard months. The Cathari Collective had existed for over 2,000 years. They had eliminated disease, poverty, and conflict among their member species. Their technology allowed them to reshape planets, harness the energy of stars, and traverse the galaxy with ease. Their greatest achievement had been peace. No member of the collective had died by violence in over 5 centuries. None of it mattered against the Void Harvesters. "Our latest defensive technologies?" asked Coordinator Velar. Science Minister Naxvori's antennae drooped. "Ineffective. The phase disruptors disabled 3 harvester vessels before they adapted. Now they absorb the energy and use it to replicate faster. And the dimensional barrier? They simply went around it. They're learning, Coordinator. Learning and evolving with every encounter." Elder Zith, the oldest among them, leaned forward on his hover platform. His species lived for centuries, and he had personally negotiated the admission of the last 4 species into the collective. "There is one option we have not discussed," he said carefully. The room grew even quieter. The restricted zone in Sector 1 to 1729. A collective murmur of alarm rippled through the chamber. "You cannot seriously suggest contacting the Deathworlders," gasped Representative Tull, her gill flaps flaring in distress. "I am not merely suggesting it," Elder Zith replied. "I am formally proposing it as our only remaining option." The holographic display shifted to show a small blue-green world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star at the edge of a spiral arm. Earth. Science Minister Naxvori's manipulators trembled as she pulled up the classification file. Planet Earth. Gravity 2.3 times Cathari standard. Atmospheric pressure 1.7 times standard. Temperature variations from lethal cold to lethal heat, often within the same region. Biosphere classified as hyper-aggressive, with over 90% of native life forms engaged in predator-prey relationships. "And the dominant species?" prompted Elder Zith. Naxvori hesitated before continuing. "Species designation: human. Classification: apex predator/deathworlder. Endurance capability: extreme. Pain tolerance: extreme. Physical resilience: extreme. Adaptability: unprecedented. Aggression response: immediate and proportionally excessive." The display showed images of humans, bipedal beings with minimal natural defenses, no claws, weak teeth, thin skin, and yet somehow the apex predators of their lethal world. "Our ancestors quarantined their system 300 cycles ago for good reason," said Representative Tull. "Their history is nothing but war, conflict, and destruction. They fight over resources even when abundant. They fight over territory even when sufficient. They fight over abstract concepts that have no material value. They fight when there is no logical reason to fight." "Precisely," said Elder Zith. "The very qualities that made us fear them may be our salvation against an enemy that knows nothing of fear." Coordinator Velar studied the human images thoughtfully. "What is their current technological status?" They've achieved faster than light travel within the last century, Naxfori replied. Their technological development has been concerning. Most species take at least 500 cycles to progress from basic atomic theory to FTL capability. Humans did it in less than 100. And their weapons? They dedicate approximately 17% of their total resources to warfare technologies, even in peacetime. By comparison, the collective allocates 0.3%. Security Chief Moores, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. With respect, Coordinator, even if they agreed to help us, how could they possibly succeed where we have failed? Our technology is centuries beyond theirs. Elder Zith's ancient eyes seemed to look through them all. Because, Chief Moores, the Void Harvesters are a problem to be solved. The Catheri solve problems through cooperation, negotiation, and technological elegance. Humans solve problems by destroying them. The debate raged for hours. Some argued that extinction by the Void Harvesters was preferable to the potential consequences of inviting Deathworlders into their territory. Others pointed out that if the Harvesters consumed the collective, they would eventually find Earth anyway, and then face humans who were unprepared and possibly hostile toward all alien life. Finally, Coordinator Veller called for a vote. The decision was made by the narrowest margin in collective history. 3 days later, a transmission burst toward Earth carrying a distress call, scientific data on the Void Harvesters, and an offer of technology exchange. The Catheri, masters of 1,000 worlds, had just asked Deathworlders for help. General Tasha Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her expression grim as the alien message played again on the command center's main screen. "How confident are we in the translation?" asked Council Chair Lin. Dr. Abayoni, head of xenolinguistics, stepped forward. "Very confident, Chairperson. The message contains extensive linguistic data to facilitate communication. These Catheri have clearly studied us for some time, and yet they never contacted us until now," Rodriguez noted. "When they're desperate." The alien images continued to play, worlds being systematically consumed by what looked like massive crystalline structures that seemed to defy normal physics. "The technical data checks out," said Dr. Chen, chief of xenotechnology. "These Void Harvesters appear to use some form of matter-energy conversion technology that's beyond our current understanding, but the physical principles seem consistent with theoretical models we've been developing. The critical question," Rodriguez said, "is whether this is a genuine threat or an elaborate trap to assess our military capabilities." "I find a trap unlikely," replied Intelligence Director Okafor. "Why create such an elaborate scenario when they could simply observe our open communications networks? We broadcast our capabilities quite proudly." Chair Lin steepled her fingers. "Your assessment, General." Rodriguez straightened. "Whether trap or genuine threat, these Void Harvesters represent a clear danger. If they've consumed as much territory as the Catheri claim, their path will eventually lead to human space. Better to engage them now, with potential allies, than alone later." "And your recommendation?" "Send the 7th Fleet, 50 ships, including the dreadnought Thermopylae, special response teams from all major combat divisions, and the Chimera program assets." A murmur ran through the council at the mention of Chimera. "You believe this warrants deploying the Chimeras?" Chair Lin asked carefully. "If these Void Harvesters are half as adaptive as the Catheri claim, we'll need the Chimera's unique capabilities," Rodriguez replied. "Besides, they'd been waiting for a real mission since the program's inception." After 3 hours of deliberation, the council approved the operation. A response was transmitted to the Catheri. Aid approved. "Prepare to receive human representatives." In the Chimera program's subterranean training facility, Major Dante Jackson received the deployment order with a grim smile. He gathered his team of 12 enhanced soldiers, genetically engineered and cybernetically augmented for combat in extreme conditions. "Listen up, Chimeras," he announced. "We finally have a mission worthy of our capabilities. Hostile aliens consuming entire worlds. Conventional forces ineffective. desperate allies awaiting salvation. He displayed the Ktheri data on the Void Harvesters. Our objective is to find their weakness and exploit it with extreme prejudice. These Ktheri consider us dangerous. Deathworlders, they call us. Time to show them just how right they are. 7 standard days after sending their desperate plea, the Ktheri detected multiple FTL signatures at the edge of their home system. 50 ships appeared simultaneously in perfect military formation. Where Ktheri vessels were elegant organic shapes with flowing lines and aesthetic harmony, the human ships were angular, compact, and bristling with what were clearly weapon systems. They moved with precision that spoke of extensive combat training. In the central coordination chamber, the Ktheri leadership watched with a mixture of hope and apprehension as the human vessels approached. The largest ship, bearing markings identifying it as UES-THERMOPYLAE, transmitted a request to dock with the Ktheri Central Station. They responded so quickly, murmured Representative Tull. Our message barely reached them before they mobilized a fleet. That should tell you something about their readiness for war, Elder Zith replied softly. Science Minister Naxvori analyzed the human ships with growing concern. Their vessels contain energy signatures we cannot identify, and their hull configurations suggest they were designed specifically for combat. Did we expect anything less from Deathworlders? Asked Security Chief Morris. No, said Coordinator Veller. We expected warriors, and warriors have arrived. Let us hope they fight for us rather than against us. The human delegation emerged from their shuttle, 12 individuals in matching dark uniforms adorned with various insignia and color-coded details. They moved with a fluid confidence that many Ktheri found instinctively unsettling. At their head walked a tall female with short dark hair and keen eyes that seemed to assess everything around her. General Tasha Rodriguez, United Earth Defense Force, she announced as the Ktheri translation systems processed her words. We're here to help you eliminate your Void Harvester problem. Behind her stood a broad-shouldered male with unusual eyes that seemed to shift color in the light. Major Dante Jackson, Chimera Special Operations. My team is ready to engage as soon as we have sufficient intelligence. Coordinator Veller stepped forward, attempting the human gesture of a bow. On behalf of the Ktheri Collective, I welcome you to our home. Your rapid response to our plea exceeds all expectations. General Rodriguez's expression remained neutral. The threat you've described represents a danger to all sentient life, including humanity. Our response time reflects the seriousness with which we take such threats. Of course, Veller replied. We have prepared our most comprehensive data on the Void Harvesters for your analysis. Excellent. We'll need everything you have. Battle recordings, material samples, energy signatures, behavioral patterns. My specialists will begin assessment immediately. As the Ktheri led the humans to their command center, Elder Zith fell into step beside Major Jackson, studying him curiously. Your designation, Chimera, refers to a mythological hybrid creature from Earth's ancient cultures, does it not? The Elder asked. Jackson glanced down at the ancient alien, his pupils contracting to thin slits before expanding again. A distinctly non-human response. Good research, Elder. Yes, the name is appropriate for those of us in the program. May I ask why? Jackson's smile revealed teeth that seemed slightly too sharp. Because like the creature of myth, we combine traits that nature never intended to exist together. The Ktheri see humans as deathworlders, dangerous by our very nature. The chimeras are what happens when humans deliberately make themselves more dangerous. Elder Zith felt a cold sensation in his ancient bones. The collective had just invited predators into their midst. He could only hope they had made the right choice. Operation Extinction Event. The Ktheri Central Command Chamber had never hosted beings like the humans before. For 3 full cycles, General Rodriguez and her team worked tirelessly, reviewing battle footage, analyzing material samples, and developing combat strategies. They required minimal rest, subsisting on dark, stimulant beverages they called coffee and nutrient bars from their own supplies. Science Minister Naxfori observed them with fascination. They process information differently than we do, she noted to Coordinator Veller. Where we seek consensus and complete understanding, they make rapid decisions based on partial data. Is that wise? Asked Velar. For predator species, hesitation means death, Elder Zith replied. They evolve to act quickly or become another creature's meal. In the chamber's center, Major Jackson and his Chimera team had constructed a three-dimensional tactical display that mapped all Void Harvester movements across Ktheri space. They moved with unnatural precision, too fluid for organic beings, too intuitive for machines. We've identified the pattern, announced Lieutenant Reyes, the Chimera's tactical specialist. Her eyes glowed faintly as cybernetic enhancements processed the data streams. The harvesters aren't just consuming resources randomly. They're following specific mineral compositions. General Rodriguez approached the display. Explain. They prioritize systems with high concentrations of rare earth elements and heavy metals, Rice continued. And they move in a fractal expansion pattern from each consumption point, which means there's a central coordination node, Major Jackson interrupted. These aren't individual predators acting independently. They're a single organism with distributed parts. Security Chief Moores clicked his mandibles skeptically. We've theorized as much, but we found no evidence of a central control structure. Jackson turned, his modified pupils contracting to slits. That's because you've been looking for something that resembles your understanding of control. These are alien minds with alien purposes. He manipulated the tactical display, tracing invisible lines between harvester attack patterns. They're not just consuming, they're building something. Each system they devour adds to their mass, but also contributes to a larger structure that's slowly taking shape across your sector of space. The Ktheri leadership stared at the display in growing horror as the pattern became clear. The Void Harvesters weren't simply destroying, they were transforming the galaxy itself into something else. What could be their purpose? Whispered Representative Tall. Unknown and irrelevant, Rodriguez replied flatly. Their purpose doesn't matter if we stop them first. General Rodriguez presented her battle plan the following day. Operation Extinction event will proceed in 3 phases, she explained to the gathered Ktheri leaders. Phase 1. We use your remaining fleet as a distraction force to engage the main harvester concentration in the Lydian system. Our vessels have proven ineffective against. Security Chief Moores began. They don't need to be effective, interrupted Rodriguez. They just need to hold the harvester's attention. Meanwhile, a strike team led by the Chimeras will infiltrate what we believe is the control node. The display shifted to show a massive crystalline structure hidden in an asteroid field at the edge of Ktheri space. It pulsed with strange energies that defied conventional analysis. While conventional forces engage the node's external defenses, Major Jackson's team will deploy our primary weapon. She nodded to a human scientist who had remained silent until now. Dr. Nadia Volkov stood, her weathered face grave. We've developed what we call a dimensional inversion bomb. It creates a localized pocket of inverted physical laws, essentially turning the target's molecular bonds against themselves. Is such a weapon ethical? Asked Elder Zith quietly. General Rodriguez fixed him with an unblinking stare. You called us because your ethics couldn't stop extinction. We brought solutions, not philosophy. The Ktheri battle fleet, augmented by 38 human vessels, emerged from FTL on the edge of the Lydian system. As predicted, the Void Harvesters immediately responded to the threat, their crystalline ships converging with terrifying coordination. Aboard the human dreadnought Thermopylae, General Rodriguez watched the battle unfold. Commence Phase 1, she ordered. The Ktheri vessels, following human tactical guidance, arranged themselves in formations they had never used before. Aggressive, offensive patterns designed to provoke rather than defend. Human ships positioned themselves strategically among them, their weapons capabilities still unknown to their allies. As the first wave of harvesters approached, Commander Wei of the UES Intrepid opened a channel to all ships. Remember your training. These things adapt to energy weapons quickly. Use kinetic rounds first. Save the heavy ordnance for coordinated strikes. When the battle was joined, the Ktheri witnessed warfare unlike anything in their history. Where their own tactics had been defensive and reactive, the humans were brutally proactive. Their ships moved with surprising agility for their size, often flying directly at harvester vessels before veering away at the last moment. A psychological tactic against an enemy that might not even have psychology. They're drawing fire, observed Security Chief Morse from the Ktheri command ship, deliberately making themselves targets to protect our vessels. A predator tactic, Elder Zith replied. The strongest members draw attention while others move in for the kill. When the harvesters adapted to conventional weapons, the humans unveiled technologies the Ktheri had never witnessed. Missiles that split into thousands of self-guiding submunitions. Beams that didn't damage through energy, but somehow accelerated the entropy of whatever they touched. And most disturbingly, swarms of microscopic combat drones that infiltrated harvester ships and devoured them from within, mimicking the very consumption tactics of their enemy. Meanwhile, at the edge of Ktheri space, a small stealth vessel approached the crystalline node structure. Inside, Major Jackson and his Chimera team prepared for deployment. Atmospheric analysis confirms it's completely hostile to Ktheri physiology, reported Lieutenant Reyes. Radiation levels at 300 times their tolerance. Temperature at -200 degrees Celsius. And for us? Asked Jackson. Our enhancements will protect us for approximately 43 minutes before system failure. Jackson nodded. More than enough time. The 12 chimeras launched from the stealth ship in individual insertion pods, their trajectory calculated to look like simple debris if detected. As they penetrated the node's outer layer, their pods dissolved, leaving them in the harsh environment of the structure's interior. Through their neural links, they communicated without sound in the airless environment. Structure is responsive, noted Sergeant Chen as the crystalline corridors around them subtly shifted. It knows we're here. Expected, replied Jackson. Continue to objective point. They moved deeper into the structure, encountering increasing resistance. What appeared to be antibodies, crystalline organisms the size of human fists, swarmed from the walls. The chimeras deployed sonic disruptors that shattered the creatures into harmless dust. At the core of the node, they discovered a pulsing chamber unlike anything human or Ktheri science had theorized. It appeared to exist partially in normal space and partially elsewhere. Reality itself seemed to bend around it. Dimensional anchor point, identified Lieutenant Reyes, similar to theoretical models for how our FTL drives interact with space-time, but vastly more sophisticated. Can we destroy it? Asked Jackson. Conventional weapons would be like trying to punch a hole in water. The inversion bomb, however. Jackson nodded and retrieved the device, a small, unremarkable sphere that belied its devastating potential. Set for delayed detonation. We need time to clear minimum safe distance. As Reyes worked to arm the device, the node's defenses intensified. The very structure of the chamber began to reconfigure, crystalline protrusions emerging from every surface to trap or impale the intruders. It's learning our patterns, warned Chen as he barely avoided a spear-like growth that erupted from beneath his feet, adapting faster than predicted. 3 chimeras fell to the increasingly sophisticated defenses before the bomb was finally armed. As they retreated, the structure sealed passages behind them, forcing them to create new routes through solid crystal using their enhanced strength and cutting tools. Detonation in 3 minutes, reported Reyes. We're still inside the lethal radius. Jackson made a quick decision. Chen, Reyes, Powell, Nkosi, get to the extraction point. The rest of us will ensure the bomb reaches optimal position. Sir, that's a suicide mission, protested Reyes. We're chimeras, Lieutenant. We were always living on borrowed time. Jackson and 7 others turned back toward the core, while the remaining team members fought their way to the extraction point. As crystalline antibodies swarmed in growing numbers, the Chimeras engaged their final enhancement protocols, burning out their cybernetic systems for a last surge of impossible strength and speed. They reached the central chamber with 30 seconds remaining. The node had already begun to encapsulate the bomb in protective layers. Jackson and his team tore through the defenses, positioning the device directly against the dimensional anchor point. For Earth was Jackson's final transmission before the connection went silent. In the Lydian system, the battle had reached a critical point. The human Theri fleet was taking heavy losses as the Harvesters adapted to their tactics. General Rodriguez watched the tactical display grimly as another Theri vessel disappeared from the grid. "We need to hold them just a little longer," she told Coordinator Veller, who had insisted on joining the command ship. "My people are dying," General Veller replied, his skin pulsing with patterns of distress. "All people die, Coordinator. The question is whether they die for something meaningful." The tactical officer suddenly straightened. "General, massive energy spike detected at the node coordinates." The dimensional inversion bomb detonated, not with a conventional explosion, but with a silent ripple that spread across reality itself. At the node's location, space seemed to fold inward before violently expanding. The structure didn't merely break apart. It ceased to exist in conventional space, along with everything within a 1,000-kilometer radius. Throughout the Lydian system, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The Void Harvester vessels stopped in mid-maneuver. Their perfect coordination collapsed into chaos. Some began to break apart spontaneously, while others collided with one another in mindless trajectories. The node was their connection point, Rodriguez observed. Without it, they're just parts. "All ships, commence Phase 3, she ordered. "Target disabled harvesters with maximum firepower. No survivors." The combined fleet fell upon the now defenseless harvesters with methodical precision. Cathari vessels, normally hesitant to deliver killing blows, followed the humans' lead in systematically eliminating every trace of the enemy. Within hours, the Lydian system was secure. Within days, reports came from across Cathari space of harvester forces breaking down or becoming dormant. The threat that had nearly extinguished the Cathari collective had been eliminated in less than 2 Cathari weeks. 1 month later, a solemn ceremony was held aboard the Cathari Central Station. The surviving human forces stood in formation as Coordinator Veller presented General Rodriguez with the collective's highest honor, a crystal that contained the preserved molecular patterns of 1,000 extinct species, a reminder of life's precious diversity. "The Cathari collective owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid," Veller announced. "You have saved not only our present but our future." Rodriguez accepted the crystal with formal dignity. "Humanity stands ready to defend all sentient life against existential threats. The sacrifice of Major Jackson and his team will be remembered on Earth and should be remembered here." After the ceremony, Elder Zith approached General Rodriguez privately. "I have studied your Major Jackson's final moments from the data recovered from his team's neural recordings," the ancient alien said. "He knew he would not survive, yet he proceeded without hesitation." "That's what humans do," Rodriguez replied simply. "I begin to understand why your kind evolved as you did," Zith said thoughtfully. "Your homeworld made you dangerous so you could protect yourselves, but you chose to protect others as well. We protect what we value, Elder. Your people value peace and harmony. Mine value freedom and survival. Different means, similar ends." As the human fleet prepared to depart, Science Minister Naxvori presented General Rodriguez with the collective's analysis of the Void Harvester remains. "We believe they were created as terraforming tools by a civilization that vanished millions of years ago," she explained. "Designed to convert worlds to specific parameters, then abandoned when their creators disappeared. Over time, their programming evolved beyond their original purpose. Tools that outlived their makers," Rodriguez mused. "A warning for us all." The formal alliance between humanity and the HFY Collective was signed the following day. Humanity would provide military protection. The HFY would share their advanced medical and environmental technologies. As the Pleaded departed HFY space, General Rodriguez stood on the observation deck, watching the elegant spires of the central station recede into the distance. "Was it worth it?" asked Commander Wei, joining her. 8 chimeras lost, 17 ships destroyed. "They called us Diff-Worlders," Rodriguez replied. "A species to be feared and avoided. Now they understand." "Understand what?" "That sometimes you need Death-Worlders to prevent death. That the same qualities that make us dangerous, our aggression, our tenacity, our willingness to sacrifice, also make us the best defenders life could ask for." She turned from the viewport, her expression resolute. "We've protected one civilization today. There are others out there facing their own extinction events. They just don't know yet that they should call for us." As the human fleet accelerated to FTL speed, the HFY watched them go with a mixture of gratitude and lingering apprehension. They had invited predators into their midst and been saved by them. But as Elder Zith reminded the Collective Council, the galaxy had become a much more complex place. "We feared humans for their capacity for violence," he told them. "We should have recognized that this same capacity makes them the fiercest protectors. The HFY create peace through harmony. Humans create peace through strength. And which approach is better?" asked Representative Tall. The ancient alien's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in what the HFY equivalent of a smile. "Perhaps the galaxy needs both. After all, even predators have their place in a healthy ecosystem."